Hey everyone, Kathy the Vegan Prepper here to talk to you about one more habit that kind of changed everything for us. Do-do-do, do-do-do-do, vegan prepper. Do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, vegan prepper. The last time I talked to you about this, I talked specifically about how we, over the course of the last 2 years, have switched pretty much completely from canned beans to dried beans. And so I can link that video down below and just like how much that impacted our storage. But this time I'd like to talk to you about a different thing that we have been focusing on that has really impacted the way that we've been able to stock. And that is working on shopping as infrequently as possible. In fact, our goal is to shop only once per month. We achieved this goal? Absolutely not. We have gotten way better than we used to be, but we are not down to only once monthly shopping trips. However, there have been steady improvements over the course of several years now since we first began to really look at trying to do this, not even so much with prepping in mind, but because we have a dream of living a more off-grid lifestyle in a more rural area, and we wanted to practice in our own lives living the life that we would like to most live so that we don't have to have such a huge learning curve when we get in the situation. So for us personally, we were envisioning ourselves living in some sort of more remote rural area, only being able to get to the store like once a month. And so what would that look like? How would we make that work in our lives? And what strategies would we need to put in place in order to make that our reality in the now, so that when we find ourselves hopefully in our dream situation, we kind of already have the skills necessary in order to live that way. And as will happen, one good decision has a cascading positive effect in our lives that we have seen. We can measure it, we can truly see it. So for us, this really began back in 2016. And so it was when we kind of consciously started making the decision to reorganize and restructure our lives to sort of have our dream in mind, trying to get ourselves ready for it. And so this was one of the ways that we did. Previous to that decision, we had kind of stocked like clumsily here and there, trying to make sure that we always had enough on hand in case we had to skip a grocery store trip one week. Adam and I have definitely had some financial struggles in our marriage at times, especially because we made the decision pretty early on that I would stay home and that he would work so that we would consciously be a single income home. And that was a decision that we made that was very difficult. It caused us to have to really constrain our budget and be extremely frugal to make it work, even years and years ago when we started. So I can't imagine what people are going through at this point. But being able to start working at only shopping once a month began to completely change the way that I viewed our grocery trips and how we would pull food into our house. This is when the 25-pound bags of like oats and flours began coming into our home. This is when my bulk produce purchases started. At that time, I was not vegan yet, so I was also working on figuring out how to stock meats. I bought a chest freezer, which I still use, but now it's filled with frozen fruits and vegetables. But basically, also just like as an aside, I have to say another huge thing that changed, but this can be another video, is when we went vegan, that changed everything. So if I knew how much cheaper it was to live and eat as a vegan, I probably would have started years and years ago. But we can get into that in another time. Also, the ease of storage. I mean, look, like I said, I bought a chest freezer and it was used. I managed to score a $50 chest freezer, which we still use to this day. But I don't really need a freezer for anything but frozen fruits and vegetables. All my stuff just like goes on a shelf. It's pretty great. But bringing that stuff into the home and then looking at larger purchases here and there, I started thinking about this particular thing when I was filming my latest Azure Standard haul. It's for, if you're watching this far in the future, that was my June 2022 Azure Standard haul. And I was thinking about it because the very first two things in the haul are a gallon of maple syrup and a gallon of date syrup. And so basically I start off my haul on my channel where I talk a lot about being frugal, and trying to pinch your pennies and be smart with your money. But I started off my haul with over $100 worth of just syrups. And probably to most people that looks really like, I don't know, kind of strange to spend that much money on syrups. And I've actually gotten comments before from people, basically, I don't know, like I think it's because they kind of don't understand, where they say, I don't have the budget for some of the things that you buy. And so probably that would be like a prime example, right? Like $100 on syrups. But the thing is, that's how I shop. If you look at the rest of the haul, none of it is really like, well, except for maybe the bag of quinoa, none of it is like hyper focused on our daily eating needs, because like we're pretty set. So being able to focus, and then again, this is what we're talking probably about 6 years now into working on making this happen in our lives. Over time, one large purchase at a time ends up freeing up enough money so that you're able to start making pretty much everything that you put into your house can be a large purchase. So that will save you money, it'll save you time, saving you trips to the grocery store, especially now, like with gas prices the way that they are. Not having to drive to the grocery store is another huge plus that I never saw coming. Again, it's just a cascading positive effect, how one good change begets so many benefits that you didn't even think of, because you didn't know that was a thing, or it was going to be a thing. Bulk shopping saves so much money. I have a video on the channel too where I talk about the only 2 ways that I've ever really been able to save money in my life, and that is from buying in bulk and making things from scratch. That's basically the only ways that we've ever truly seen that we can seriously reduce our costs. And so those 2 things alone, I can link that video down below. I think it's a relatively good video. But for instance, even just this shot, so shopping in bulk, for those of you who haven't really ever done it, we have an anaphylactic peanut allergy in our house, and so we do have some special dietary needs. I can't just buy anything. I have to be careful about which things we purchase. And so one of the things that we do is we get sunflower seed butter. And so this is, specially made, peanut-free facility, kind of highfalutin organic sun butter. These are probably at least $10 in a store. If I were to go to a grocery store to purchase this, I have actually seen it as much as $12 each. But I purchased these in a 6-pack from Azure Standard for, I believe, it used to be $48, and I'm pretty sure the last time was $54. But still, it's a savings. I practically get one of these for free every single time I do that. And so, yeah, over time it ends up saving money, even on some of the kind of more expensive things. In fact, I would say it's almost more essential to purchase some of your specialty items in bulk if it's possible. So where do you start? Like I said, it just sort of starts one thing at a time. Like one 25-pound bag of oats means now I'm not purchasing oats for a long time. I don't need to. So it's like naturally money begins to get freed up, especially when you consider the price of a 25-pound bag of oats versus like instant oatmeal from the store or whatever. It's such a savings that you can really begin to free up money just by making one bulk purchase at a time, and then just sort of strategically, okay, now I'm going to buy this thing. Okay, now I'm buying a 25-pound bag of flour, because we were already making all our own bread. At the time, I was buying, again, like kind of smaller bags of flour, because we were making all of our own bread anyway. So I'm not saying you go out and buy oats if you don't eat oats, or go out and buy flour if you don't eat flour, or eat bread or whatever. Start to think about the things in your own life that you do go through. What are the things that you're constantly buying at the store? Figure out if there's a way that you could buy that thing in bulk and just sort of go from there. This really begins to make a huge difference too once you get yourself to the point that you can start purchasing some of your more expensive items in bulk. So for instance, we, in the last year, I believe, was it a little longer than that? I don't remember. We purchased a 50-pound box of cashews. for something like $170. When you do the math on that, that's just barely more than $3 a pound for organic cashews. If I were to go purchase organic cashews in a store, if it was on sale, I'd be getting it $9 a pound. They're really expensive, especially organic. So being able to purchase that in bulk saves so much money. So we currently have also, so I mentioned my freezer. I remember we also have about 25 pounds of cashews in our freezer to keep them good until we start using them. And then one of these buckets is like about down to here with cashews. And so we'll fill that back up. And as we use it, so we use that for our cheeses, for our milks, just eating. My husband loves cashews. It's his favorite nut. And so just things like that, like again, like if you can make a bulk purchase of something that's really expensive, that also can make a huge difference in your life. For me, the biggest challenge in this whole thing has been produce, is figuring out how to go to the store less frequently for produce. And so learning which things kind of store longer, things like cabbage. Again, frozen fruits and vegetables are a great option, but if you want fresh fruits and vegetables, you have to kind of be strategic with your purchases. Definitely preserving is a thing, but like for me personally, I think it's very important for us to have as much fresh, raw fruits and vegetables as possible. So I am typically going to the store still probably once or twice every 2 weeks. Sometimes I can stretch it and not go for 2 weeks and have, a big stock of produce that lasts a good long time. Like right now in summer, we have watermelons, we have cantaloupes, we have things like that, again, that just kind of store for a long time. You don't have to necessarily get through those really fast. Greens even can keep really well in a fridge if you sort of treat them right, but also we pull greens still from our garden. We have certain greens that we're getting, and then actually for us personally, greens and vegetables, that's more of a winter thing for us as far as what we're able to pull from our garden, because we live in central Arizona. I garden in Phoenix, so summer ends up being when I rely the most on the store for our produce, because I don't have as much coming out of my garden unless you count like hot peppers. But I don't know about you, but I'm not sitting over here eating cayenne peppers as a snack. Maybe somebody can, but not me. For produce help, this book was an unexpectedly amazing resource. I'm just sharing it. I'm not affiliated or anything. Just that you know, this is Fridge Love by Kristen Hong. She's Hello Nutritarian on Instagram. If you find her, you will love her, and also just like salivate over her veggie fridges. It's just crazy how beautiful her stuff is. But I purchased this originally because I just like the author and I really enjoy her content. But what I did not expect was this kind of insane section she has in the front of the book. I mean, it's like pages and pages long of different foods and mainly vegetables and fruits, and what you can do to store them and make them last as long as possible in your fridge. And so this is a really great unexpected resource for sort of stretching those grocery trips. And so I thought I would go ahead and just share that. You can find the information scattered online many places, if you like Google this or how to make this last longer or whatever. But she's like so thorough, and she has years of experience making produce last in her fridge. And so it's all just kind of like right there for you. So I thought I would go ahead and share that. She eats the Eat to Live way, the Dr. Joel Fuhrman plan. But yeah, it's just a fantastic resource. So I thought I would share that because this is the kind of what I'm employing right now to attempt to stretch our grocery trips from that like once a week produce run to a once every 2 weeks produce run. And so maybe eventually we will get ourselves set up enough that I won't have to go for produce even more than once a month, which would be pretty fantastic. My grandma always used to say, reach for the stars. Even if you never reach them, you're not going to end up with a fistful of mud. That's how she said it. I know like some people say shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. Like that's another one. But I like hers. I like that picture of reaching up and you're not going to end up with mud. Because yeah, you're reaching up. So I don't really need to explain it. You guys can catch it. You know what I'm talking about. So basically, I figured I would share this video because I had that thought, like I said, when I saw my $100 purchase of syrups at Azure, and how people would probably look at that and say, oh, she's not really frugal, or oh, she's not really like a budget person. And it's like, no, those are the purchases I make now because we're frugal, because we budget, because we have worked so hard for so long at shopping less frequently. We're able to funnel funds into purchases that look like, I don't know, people might look and say, oh, it must be nice. But I don't know if I mentioned it already in the video, but I will mention it again briefly right here, just in case I haven't. If you do the math on my Azure hauls, they're about $400. Like if you go through and you total up everything that I have spent, it's usually about $400. So for us personally, our family, we try really hard to keep our budget to $500 a month for groceries. We don't often make it. We typically end up closer to about $600, but I do about a $400 Azure haul, and then usually anywhere from $100 to $200 locally, getting our produce and getting whatever other things that we do. And so that is based off of Jordan Page. She has a lot of amazing budgeting stuff that I looked at to help figure out some of our budget stuff. And she says that she thinks that you should spend $100 per person per month on groceries, starting at $300 as your minimum. So like if there's only 2 of you, then still your minimum is like $300. And so that is basically the figure that we attempt to hit, because we are a family of 5. We try to hit $500 a month. It doesn't quite work every single time, but we're able to feed all of us very comfortably. And even though some of the purchases look frivolous or expensive, they're all done within that framework. That's what I'm spending. That is what I'm purchasing for our food. So yeah, I think it works out really well. And again, it's just like that one change, just trying to shop less frequently. And really, it was like buying one thing in bulk at a time, and it just sort of snowballed. And now pretty much like almost everything we buy now, we buy in bulk. And it just made a huge, wonderful change in our lives. So I just thought I would share that with you guys. Do you have any thoughts or comments? Have you tried to do the same thing? Do you shop less frequently now? Have you had more success than I have with stretching out your trips to the store regarding produce? Do you have ideas on stuff like that? I'd love to hear all of your tips and tricks and wisdom in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. I really mean that. See you in the next one. Bye. All right, I'm gonna film me turning on my light. This is for you.